Hello, brothers and sisters. In this video, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about the book of Ecclesiastes. I just finished reading it again, and I love this book so much. Um, it's one of those things that is so brilliant that my brain doesn't know what to do. So it just makes my thoughts race, and I just sit and I ponder, and 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 I just really feel like in schools, instead of having kids read Shakespeare or something for valuable reading or whatever, they should have them reading brilliance like Ecclesiastes. That's just what I feel like. If you just heard that, that was my phone going off. My notification sound is Yoshi, so I hear that about 30 times a day. It's kind of funny because it's connected to my YouTube. But anyway, not to bash Shakespeare, but in my true, honest opinion, Shakespeare does not and never will have anything on Ecclesiastes. This book is brilliant. Yeah, no offense to any Shakespeare fans. Yeah, so I would describe this book as brilliance and genius in its purest form as far as like written text. But I guess you could call the whole Bible that. But this specifically, it's a book full of, it's like a book full of brain gold or something. It's like with every word you read, like you're polishing your brain or something, and you're getting some really, really deep wisdom. And okay, the reason why I like this book so much now, like I said, I read the book more than once, more than 3 times, but just recently when I read it, it made me, I looked at it and I'm like, hey, this sounds really familiar to me. Um, because as a bride, I'm just going to explain kind of some things that I'm going through that so maybe also what you guys are going through. Okay, what I'm pretty much going through is like a detachment thing, something like that. I know that we're supposed to detach from the world. I look at that as detach from the lust and the sin and the wicked part of the world. But I mean, even things that aren't even bad, uh, things that I used to like, I'm finding myself growing bored of them. Like, I mean, anything. Like, I used to play video games, don't really care to play those anymore. Sometimes I watch people play video games. Apparently, I don't really care to do that anymore. I used to like watching movies. I don't care about doing that anymore. I used to I used to like a lot of things, and now it's like when I get ready to do them, I get bored. And if I don't get bored at the start, I get bored like nearly like right when I just started. And it's kind of funny and it's weird, and I'm just sitting here trying to figure out what's wrong with me. I had so many hobbies, and now all of a sudden, they're boring and they're empty and they do nothing for me. They do nothing at all. And the reason is because, as Ecclesiastes explains it, everything is meaningless. Now, when I first read this book, I thought that was funny because I'm like, why would you just call everything meaningless? I mean, are you being serious? Yeah, he's being dead serious, and he's being profound too. Um, you know, okay, I look at it like this: everything is meaningless, and nothing means anything, but God means everything. And there you have it. If it doesn't have to do with God, that's why, I guess that's what makes it meaningless, you know? Like, there's no true fulfillment in anything else. Nothing. Not work, not school, not, I don't know, traveling, not, uh, whatever, fame, whatever people pursue in this life. And I like how, the book it says, well, it says all things are wearisome, more than one can say. And I'm just like, exactly. Because I don't, it's like people, we strive for, I don't know, we strive for the things that we want. We strive for success. I don't know, we strive for plenty, I guess. The things that make us happy. And then I just really looked at it. I looked at the things that people do under the sun in this day and age. Like, for example, sometimes people watch movies, sometimes people play sports, sometimes, I don't know, maybe people like to play an instrument, maybe some people like, maybe like any kind of, I don't know, a club activity or something. Things that people do to have fun. Hobbies. I'm looking at those things now as meaningless. And not to say that it's bad, because it's not always bad, it's just meaningless. Because it's like, can you take this? Well, okay. I feel like anything that doesn't have to do with God, or anything that doesn't have to do with what you can work toward eternity with, is meaningless. Not saying that it's bad, it's just meaningless. I'm not calling movies bad, I'm not calling sports bad, I'm not calling your hobbies bad. Like, if you like painting, or if you like, I don't know, whatever you like. I'm not saying that it's bad, I'm just saying that it's kind of meaningless. Um, and I say that because we do these things, our hobbies, I guess. I'm talking about things that don't have to do with God. We do these things because we want to have fun. We just want to spend some free time doing things that we like, which that's fine. But if you're anything like me, when I'm seeing, it's like I find myself getting bored, and I'm like, if it was really that great, I would not be getting bored of that. Of course, we don't get bored of God. Why? Because God is, he's he's worth it, I guess. He's fulfilling. Whereas when we try to pursue things under the sun, like whatever we do to get pleasure from it or whatever, we keep going for it. We keep going for it and keep going for it. It's like we have to keep refilling ourselves with entertainment over and over and over and over and over. But with God, we're already fulfilled, so we don't have to go anywhere else. So that's just how I look at it. Like, maybe that's why I get so bored whenever I'm doing whatever I'm doing. It's weird. It's almost like, so strange. It's almost like I'm not even in the real world. I know we're supposed to detach, and I also know that not everything is evil. But at the same time, I find myself losing interest for even innocent things, such to the point that it's almost like, am I even human anymore? It's like, I mean, it's not that I'm not a human, it's just that I know that God is more meaningful than everything else, such to the point that everything else is like nothing to me. Almost. And, just a moment. Okay, yeah. I thought of it like this too. Take a man or a woman who's lived for 5,000 years, let's just say they have that kind of lifespan or whatever. They live for 5,000 years, they make all the money they want, they do all the pleasures that they want, they, that sounds weird to do all the pleasures, but they do all the things that they want to for just fun or pleasure, and they go all the places in the world they want, they buy all the stuff they want, they do all the stuff they want, they accomplish everything, and for 5,000 years they get everything they want. Take that life, and then take another person who spends only for 3 months of their life, all they do is seek God, all they do is, I don't know, like, they spend time in prayer, they spend time in studying his word, they spend time in doing his will, and they truly just devote themselves to God for those short 3 months. And they even maybe meditate or whatever and just ponder on his wonders. And let's say, go back to the first person, let's say this person doesn't even know God. If all they did was just for pleasure, like, and if everything that they did was for pleasure, they made all the money they wanted, they went to all the movies they wanted, they I don't know, they did everything that they wanted, but it had nothing to do with God. I'm like, that person's life, it was like, it was a wasted life. It's like you didn't even get to have full enjoyment. That's why they have to keep grasping for things to keep themselves busy. It's like when you can just go to God. It's like the person who lived 5,000 years, their life, it's like their life was wasted because they never knew true fulfillment, and that is God. Whereas the person who spent only 3 months, it's like they could have had an actual meaningful, life-changing experience just because they spent time in the Lord. I don't know. Yeah. I'm guessing that's exactly why. That just for example, maybe that's exactly why I find everything meaningless now, and why I can actually see what he meant when he was saying everything is meaningless. Like, the best thing you can do is just, we have our obligations, just go do what you're supposed to do, and it's a gift of God. The book calls it a gift of God to be able to enjoy yourself, because it's meaningless anyway. It's like, the things that you can't take with you into heaven, when we get to heaven, we're not going to remember those things. Probably not. Unless somehow we're enabled to, we're probably not going to remember those things, because they're not going to have anything to do with the realm that we're in at that point. And it's just going to be stuff that was and isn't and is no more. So yeah, that's what I was thinking about. So I didn't exactly know how to go about this, but now I'm just going to go to some of my favorite verses out of the book. Okay, let's start at chapter 1. Oh, you guys, check this out. It says in chapter 1, verse 18, if you have not read Ecclesiastes, I encourage you to, but I'm just going to read to you some of the most amazing verses to ponder on, in my opinion. Although the whole book was one of those books where it makes you sit down and think about life on a deeper level than you ever have ever. But here is verse 18 of chapter 1. It says, "For with much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief." Anybody who's lived knows that's as true as it gets. And I want to just skip really far to the last chapter really quick. Okay, it says, chapter 12, verse 12 says, "Be warned, my son, of anything in addition to them. Of making many books there is no end, and much study wearies the body." There you go. I guess learning a whole bunch of useless information is fun for some people, but at the same time, it's kind of meaningless. And according to this book, it's kind of harmful. According to real life, it's harmful, because the more wisdom, the more grief. And that's just, I don't know. That's pretty deep. Like, the more you know, the more you hurt. Wow. Yeah, that was Ecclesiastes 1:18. And then on chapter 2, verse 2, this made me laugh a little bit. It said, "Laughter, I said, is foolish. And what does pleasure accomplish?" The way I look at that is, not that pleasure is a bad thing. He didn't say pleasure was a bad thing. All I said was, what does it accomplish? And exactly, what does it accomplish? What does doing things just for fun accomplish? Like, it doesn't accomplish anything. I guess that's why I get bored of my hobbies now. I'm not sure if that's true about you, but it's definitely true about me. And then, yeah, gonna go into chapter 3. Oh, I love this verse, you guys. Chapter 3, verse 11 of Ecclesiastes says, "He has made everything beautiful in its time." Isn't that the truth? And then it says, "He has also set eternity in the hearts of men, yet they cannot fathom what God has done from beginning to end." Wow. Okay, and this is in chapter 4, verses 2 through 3. Okay, this is another one of those really deep ones. And okay, a lot of people ask me, since I've been one that personally I've never really wanted children, people always ask me why. Okay, I'm going to read these verses. It says, "And I declared that the dead who had already died are happier than the living who are still alive, But better than both is he who has not yet been, who has not seen the evil that is done under the sun. Okay, if by some crazy chance we're allowed to have kids in heaven, that's awesome. But that, what I just read to you, is the exact reason why I don't want to have kids. Because here in this evil, filthy planet, absolutely filthy and disgusting place, I would never want to bring a child into such a horrible place. I would not want them to have to experience the evil that's done under the sun. And I love how this book puts it. It says, chapter 4, verse 3 says, but better than both is he who has not yet been, who has not yet seen the evil that is done under the sun. And there you have it. Then chapter 5, let me see if there's anything here. Oh, wow. I really like this verse. This is just one of those really nice verses in chapter 5, verses 19 through 20. It says, moreover, when God gives any man wealth and possessions and enables him to enjoy them, to accept his lot and be happy in his work, this is the gift of God. So I guess I see that as, you just go through life like I guess we're obligated to, things that we're supposed to do, like maybe have a job, go to school, get a job, and just provide for whatever. If we're able to do this and enjoy it, and it's not mundane, it's not like, oh, I have to go do this now, I have to go live like a zombie. If we can have joy in that, that's the gift of God. And then verse 20 says, he seldom reflects on the days of his life because God keeps him occupied with gladness of heart. Isn't that sweet? That's what the Lord does. He's so amazing. Wow. Now I'm just going to look for some more verses that I really liked. Oh, chapter 7. This one is another one of those really profound verses. I feel that way. I'm going to read a few verses out of chapter 7. This is just, wow, amazing. Okay, it says in chapter 7, verse 14, when times are good, be happy, but when times are bad, consider. God has made the one as well as the other. Therefore, a man cannot discover anything about his future. I think that's a brilliant verse. And then, chapter 7, verse 16 and 17, it says, do not be over righteous, neither be over wise. Why destroy yourself? Exactly. Why become like, why get all the wisdom that you possibly can and just be the most weary person in the world and destroy yourself? And then it says, do not be over wicked and do not be a fool. Why die before your time? So it's teaching us moderation. And then it says, it is good to grasp one and let go of the other. The man who fears God will avoid all extremes. That's a good teaching. And gonna go see if there's any more. This is a really interesting verse. In chapter 9, verse 4, it says, anyone who is among the living has hope. Even a live dog is better off than a dead lion. And I thought this was a strange verse, but now that I think about it, I guess I relate this to, people who are without the Lord. People who might think, oh, it's too late for me to get saved, I've done too much bad stuff. That's not true. It says, even a live dog is better off than a dead lion. If you're still alive and you still have breath in your body, you can still ask the Lord to forgive you for your sins. You can still accept Jesus into your heart, as long as you're alive. And then, and then after that it says, for the living know that they will die. And then it says, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even the memory of them is forgotten. Let me see. Wow. Let's see if there's any more verses that I really, really like in here. Oh my goal. I really like this one. I really like this one. It says in chapter 11, verse 5, it says, "As you do not know the path of the wind or how the body is formed in a mother's womb, so you cannot understand the work of God, the maker of all things." This was just one of those really mind-blowing verses, because then I started to think what it's like as God is forming a body in a mother's womb. Just how, like, it starts off, I don't know, maybe microscopic, and then it grows and it has bones, and then suddenly it has flesh and muscles, and its body is formed. And even the tiny details, like his features, his or her features, or the color of the baby, or just something as small as their fingerprints, you know. Oh my goodness, that was just really amazing. Really amazing. And okay guys, this part is just awesome, so I'm gonna read it, the whole thing, in chapter 12 from 1 to 7, because I feel like it was kind of poetic and it was really legit, and it's just a really good way to look at life. Okay, it says, "Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come and the years approach you when you will say, 'I find no pleasure in them.' Before the sun," oh, wow, that sounds really familiar. And then it says, "Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars grow dark, and the clouds return after the rain, when the keepers of the house tremble and the strong men stoop, when the grinders cease because they are few, and those looking through the windows grow dim, when the doors to the street are closed and the sound of grinding fades, when men rise up at the sound of the birds, but all their songs grow faint." That's kind of depressing. And then it says, "When men are afraid of heights and of dangers in the streets, when the almond tree blossoms and the grasshopper drags himself along, and desire is no longer stirred." Wow. And it says, "Then man goes to his eternal home and mourners go about the streets. Remember him before the silver cord is severed, or the golden bowl is broken, before the pitcher is shattered at the spring, or the wheel broken at the well." And this is the cool part that I like. It says, "And the dust returns to the ground it came from, and the spirit returns to God who gave it." Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Everything is meaningless. And yeah, I really love this book. I really, really, really love this book. Calls everything meaningless, and yet the book itself is very profound and meaningful. And wow, it's really interesting. It's like inspired by this book, I like to say that I'm in an ecclesiastical mood, like, all the time, or at least 22 hours of the day. Like, this book totally perfectly describes how I feel, and maybe how the rest of the bride feels in this late hour. It's just like nothing means anything but God. Like, he's the only one that matters. He's the only one worth striving for. He's the only one worth truly loving with everything you had, because he's the only thing that, not he's a thing, but he's the only one who fills you, and everything else is just like, oh, this is nice for a moment, now it's boring. This is nice for a moment, now it's boring. That's cool for a moment, now that's boring. And everything is boring except for God, unless somehow there are still things that don't bore you at this point. um yeah, praise the Lord. I really love this book, and if you haven't read it, I encourage you to look at it. And I hope I see you guys in the sky really, really, really soon. And then we can love Jesus together face to face. And that's all I wanted to say, guys. Bye!